Number 9. Rebecca Corriam. In 2010, Rebecca Corriam became a crew member aboard the Disney Wonder. She moved from Britain to Los Angeles for the job, but stayed in contact with her family regularly. That all changed one day in March 2011, when she sent her loved ones the last message they would ever receive from her. Rebecca failed to show up to work the next morning. She was nowhere to be found and didn't respond to multiple pages over the ship's loudspeaker. Surveillance footage from earlier that day showed Rebecca in an obvious state of distress while talking on the phone in a crew area. A man walked by and asked her if she was okay, to which she answered, "Yeah, fine," before hanging up the phone and walking away. She was never seen or heard from again. An extensive search failed to find any evidence of Rebecca going overboard, yet the ship's captain was quick to offer his condolences, saying that he thought she had probably been swept overboard by a rogue wave. While covering the mystery for The Guardian, journalist Ron Johnson rode the same Disney Wonder route Rebecca disappeared on. Numerous crew members told him that both the authorities and the cruise company knew more than they were letting on. According to one employee, everyone knew that Rebecca had indeed gone overboard from a crew deck during rough weather, and that it was captured on surveillance footage. Her family was denied access to the alleged video and a final report on their daughter's death. What's more, Rebecca's relatives and co-workers did not recognize a pair of flip-flops found on the deck that the cruise company said belonged to Rebecca. Her disappearance remains shrouded in secrecy to this day, causing many to believe that Rebecca met with foul play aboard the ship. Sadly, this is one of dozens of unsolved cruise ship disappearances in recent decades that authorities and cruise liners alike don't seem to want to talk about. Number 8. Christopher Caldwell. Christopher Caldwell and his fiancée, Crystal, went on what was supposed to be a romantic getaway in July 2004, and they took a cruise to Mexico aboard the Carnival cruise ship Fascination. Everything went fine until the very last night of the trip. After sharing dinner with a couple they'd met aboard the cruise, Christopher decided to gamble in the ship's casino while Crystal retired to their cabin. He told her that he'd be back shortly, but he never returned. A bartender reportedly saw Christopher on a balcony in the early hours of the morning. He was extremely drunk, but instead of taking action, the employee allegedly ignored the situation. Thinking the 37-year-old might have gone overboard, the Coast Guard searched nearby waters. They found no sign of him. Christopher was presumed dead, and his family has accused Carnival of mishandling his disappearance. After returning from the cruise, Crystal even received an email from the company asking her if she enjoyed her trip. I'm sure you can only imagine how that went over. Company spokesperson Jennifer De La Cruz told the press that Carnival does what it can for the surviving family members after a cruise ship tragedy, but that there's no department or representative appointed for these matters. She said that the case was in law enforcement's hands and to look to them for answers. Number 7. Amy Lynn Bradley. 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley was excited to go on a week-long Royal Caribbean cruise with her family in early 1998. After dancing at the ship's disco one night a few days into the trip, she and her brother returned to their cabin around 3:30 in the morning. They hung out for 2 more hours, and then Amy's brother went to sleep. A little while later, the family realized that Amy was missing. Oddly, all her personal belongings, including her wallet, had been left behind. They alerted the ship's staff before docking in Curaçao and asked employees not to let anyone off the ship until she was found. Staff allegedly ignored the request, so it's unknown whether Amy disembarked at Curaçao, and if so, if she did willingly. It's unlikely that the young woman fell or was thrown overboard. The ship was close to shore when she vanished, and her remains would have undoubtedly turned up during the Coast Guard search that ensued. Amy probably also didn't choose to disappear. According to her family, she was extremely happy with how her life was going, and it would make no sense for her to abandon it. Since then, there have been numerous reported sightings of Amy throughout the Caribbean, leading many to believe that she's a victim of human trafficking. Witnesses described Amy's tattoos and other characteristics that were not listed in her missing person flyer. Some reports, including one from a former US Navy sailor who visited a brothel, claimed that Amy approached, identified herself, and begged for help before being forcefully led away by strange, aggressive-looking men. Images of a sex worker that surfaced in 2005 bear an uncanny resemblance to Amy. Her family believes that it's her in the pictures, and law enforcement has not ruled out the possibility. All things considered, it's quite possible that Amy is still alive, and hopefully she'll make her way home. Number 6. George Allen Smith. In 2005, newlyweds George and Jennifer Smith boarded the Royal Caribbean Brilliance of the Sea for their honeymoon. What was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime for the couple from Greenwich, Connecticut, turned out to be nothing short of a nightmare. While sailing between Greece and Turkey, George vanished in the early morning hours. Bloodstains were found in his cabin and on the side of the ship. The night before, he had been drinking heavily and gambling with 4 men he met aboard the cruise liner. At some point, George and Jennifer got into an argument, and Jennifer left and went elsewhere. She was later found passed out in a hallway. The men that George was drinking with swore they had nothing to do with his disappearance. In fact, they claimed that he was so intoxicated, they took him back to his room and left him there. They were never charged, even though guests from neighboring cabins reported hearing arguing and furniture moving around, and video footage surfaced of the group making callous remarks about George's death. Jennifer has maintained that she thinks George fell overboard because he was drunk. George's family, on the other hand, is convinced that foul play was involved. Unfortunately, they may never get the closure they seek. The FBI closed the case in 2015, and no other law enforcement agencies seem eager to pick up the investigation. Can you believe the amount of people that go missing on cruise ships? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and before we continue, be sure to subscribe for more true crime stories coming soon. Number 5. Marion Carver. Marion Carver was a successful 40-year-old investment banker from Boston who decided to take a solo trip in 2004. Without telling her family, she embarked on a week-long cruise from Seattle to Alaska. Instead of going to the dining room, Marion ordered room service. Her steward, Domingo Montero, recalled her being excited about the cruise. He was the last person to see Marion alive when he delivered food to her cabin on the second day of the trip. The next morning, Montero discovered that her bed had not been slept in. Marion's belongings were still in the room, along with a tip and an envelope with unknown contents. The employee repeatedly reported Marion's disappearance to his supervisor, who told Montero to just do his job. After the cruise, the supervisor promptly donated Marion's clothing to charity and put the rest of her belongings into storage. Nobody reported her missing, and the cruise company finally notified the FBI of Marion's disappearance 5 weeks later. The contents of the envelope left behind in her cabin were never revealed. Marion's family was not surprised that she traveled without telling anyone, but they were baffled by how difficult it was for them to obtain information about her disappearance, leading them to suspect a cover-up on the cruise company's behalf. The company responded by suggesting that perhaps Marion, who had a history of depression, committed suicide by jumping overboard. However, she had only boarded with 1 outfit and 2 handbags, which were all found in her cabin, meaning that Marion would have had to walk to the deck in her underwear. Someone would have probably noticed. The family sued the cruise line and received a small settlement, but Marion's disappearance remains shrouded in mystery. Her father, who pioneered the movement to find justice for his daughter, sadly passed away without ever learning what happened to her. Number 4. Hugh Pham and Hugh Tran. After surviving the Vietnam War, Hugh Pham and his wife Hugh Tran started a new life in the United States. 30 years later, in 2005, they went on a Caribbean cruise together aboard the Carnival Destiny. The trip was a Mother's Day gift from their daughter and granddaughter, who joined them for the cruise. As the ship sailed from Barbados to Aruba, the couple mysteriously disappeared. Their daughter reported them missing, and it reportedly took the crew 4 hours to contact the Coast Guard. Meanwhile, the ship continued sailing further away from where Hugh Pham and Hugh Tran had vanished. Their remains were never found, and the circumstances surrounding their disappearance remain a mystery. After realizing that he would probably never get the answers he was looking for, the couple's son, Michael, took matters into his own hands by starting the International Cruise Victims Non-Profit. The organization is dedicated to raising awareness about the way crimes and tragedies are handled aboard cruise ships and to holding companies responsible for the industry's disturbing track record of mishandling such cases. In recent years, the cruise industry has increasingly fallen under scrutiny for its historic lack of accountability when something goes horrifically wrong on a ship. Many people believe that companies do their best to keep these situations as quiet as possible to avoid damaging their image, even when it comes at the cost of compromising a crime scene or failing to report someone missing. What do you think about the poor record of handling missing persons on cruises, or the alleged cover-ups? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Number 3. Annette Meyer. In 2004, 37-year-old Wisconsin native Annette Meyer won a free cruise to Mexico. She took her parents and her teenage daughter with her. Sounds like a good deal, right? But the prize came at a cost when Annette vanished during the trip. Around the time she was last seen, the ship was about 30 miles, 48 kilometers, off the coast of Ensenada, Mexico. Annette was supposed to meet her parents for bingo one night and never showed up. This concerned her father, who went looking for her and overheard crew members mentioning her name. Her purse was found on a lower deck near a railing. The floor was scattered with beading from the bag, and blood spatter was found nearby, indicating that Annette had encountered violence. A nearby surveillance camera lens was covered in paper, perhaps suggesting that someone had concealed it so that it couldn't record them doing something bad. A strange man had harassed Annette several times during the cruise, according to her daughter, and her complaints to employees had allegedly fallen on deaf ears. Authorities concluded that Annette must have fallen overboard or been pushed. She was declared legally dead in 2005. But her body was never found, despite an extensive search, and her family is still looking for answers. Number 2. Ying Li. In 2017, married couple Daniel Belling and Ying Li took their 2 young children on an 11-day Mediterranean cruise. When the trip was over, only Belling and the kids returned. He claimed that Li had left the vacation early, but it didn't explain why she would leave all her personal belongings behind, including her cell phone, credit cards, and wallet. Suspecting foul play, authorities tossed Belling into an Italian jail, where he languished for over a year before being released on bail. Belling insisted he had nothing to do with his wife's disappearance. He even said that he thought she had simply left him and was alive and well somewhere. Lee's mother reportedly told law enforcement that the couple fought often and that she had seen bruises on her daughter's body in the past. In late 2017, 2 civilians found the body of an Asian woman in a suitcase that was floating around in the port of Rimini. At first, everyone thought the remains belonged to Ying Li, but it turned out to be a false alarm, and her body has still never been found. Belling maintains his innocence as he awaits trial for murdering his wife. He's made no bones about his true feelings in press interviews, during which he described Li as cruel and strange, and accused her of abandoning him for wherever she is now, sticking to this story that Li simply left him and the children behind. Number 1. Fariba Armani. Canadian citizens Fariba Armani and her boyfriend of 8 months, Ramiz Galshani, went on a Bahamas celebration cruise together in 2012. Only one of them came back. The ship was on its way back to Florida from the Bahamas when Galshani reported Fariba missing. He had last seen her at around 1 o'clock in the morning in the vessel's gift shop and had gone to bed, thinking that she'd return at some point. Fariba's belongings and passport were still in her room, but she was nowhere to be found. A Coast Guard search turned up no signs of her. The woman's sisters told the press that the relationship between Fariba and Galshani was troubled. In fact, Fariba had told them that she wanted to break up with him, but decided to go on the cruise since the trip had already been booked. To make matters even more suspicious, Galshani didn't speak with Fariba's family after he returned to Canada. However, he had spoken to the FBI and wasn't considered a suspect in the case. Fariba's loved ones criticized the cruise company for loading new passengers onto the ship instead of treating it as a crime scene. By the time the FBI got a chance to search the ship, there's a good chance that any useful evidence had been contaminated or ruined. The circumstances surrounding Fariba's disappearance remain a mystery to this day. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to learn about more shocking missing persons cases, let me know in the comments below. But first, be sure to like this video and subscribe. I'll see you next time.